What a delightful score, Patrick. Just that was very, very fun. Uh, I think that I can help you the most by just kind of talking a little bit about standards of orchestration. I'll also talk about, how effective your approaches were and so on. Um, you may be looking at some limitations here. I realize that. In the application that you've got, you may not be able to drop in a bar line in the middle of a 2/4 bar, right? So this is why Patrick has got a bar of 1/4 here, followed by another bar, right? So that he can get that division in the middle. And then there's a chisura here to really separate the two sections of music. That's some nice foresight and so on. So let's jump over to here. You would have been better off having a separate staff for first violin and for second violin, right? And it's better for you to just say two bassoons, right, rather than bassoon parentheses two. By the way, two. That it is very, very important that there are two flutes, right? So you could also say flutes 1 and 2 if you wanted to, or two flutes, right? But you don't parentheses 2. Yeah, that is not a thing. Okay. So two flutes, two oboes, two clarinets in B flat, two horns in F, two bassoons, and then here separate staves for your first and second violins. All right, they should each have their own staff, because this is sort of hella confusing, to quote my brother who went to Berkeley High School. So yeah, now I'm noticing a lot of commas here, pausas, right? Some people call them apostrophes. This generally would mean that you would be like adding just a teeny bit of a pause between the different notes and so on. And sometimes they pop up. They are like music XML objects, right? Or they'll just show up in a score that's taken from like the notation side of the notation output of a DAW, right? So I don't know what the case is here, but like, if there was any way of you just going through and just picking these out and getting rid of them, that would probably be best. All right, or making them invisible. If there was something about them that sort of helped you articulate the notes in a certain way, then that would be better. And then we've got this buzz roll on the timpani. Okay, so a buzz roll on the timpani is when you, or a buzz roll on anything is when you drop the stick or the mallet onto the surface, and it kind of bounces, like it's a tight little bounce. And if you have like a buzz roll that lasts a certain amount and like goes crescendo, like, you're just kind of loosely flopping the sticks onto the membrane. Okay, well, buzz rolls on timpani are not so much of a thing. It's more of a thing for like snare drum, right, or toms, where it would work best with a buzz roll. Now, maybe in your application, like, there's no way to do a proper tremolo for a roll, but I really encourage you to try to find whatever it is that makes the triple beam for the roll, okay? Now, you could more properly just have a half note here with an accent on it and the roll mark, and then just the crescendo afterwards. And you basically you get the same exact meaning. The first stroke is an accent, and then the player, the timpanist, will just roll after that. Now I'm going to flip ahead just briefly, okay, just to make sure that I have not forgotten any other general comments. Yeah, okay, so just anything else as it comes to me, I'll mention. And just like little things here, like molto rallentando, eighth equals 50, and so on. And well, let's not worry about that for now. Let's and I've explained why there is a a bar line here in the middle, and you had to go to 1/4 and everything. Just to sort of make it better. If you have to do something like this again in the application where you've got no other choice, Patrick, then maybe put in like quarter note rests. It just would be easier on the conductor. All right. Okay, so so now let's sort of talk about the way that you've organized the scoring of your different sections. Yeah, okay, yeah. The one last thing that I wanted to talk about. Okay. So the horn should be below the bassoons in its own little section, right? So you've got your brace covering all of the winds and the horn, right? But the horn should be outside of the brace on the bottom, and the bassoon should be up against the clarinets, right? So that is another thing that is really going to confuse, or just confuse the eye. I mean, it's nothing that a conductor, let's say that a conductor was hired to conduct this score, and you were not available to edit it or do anything to it, and there was no time to fix anything, and they just had to sit down and do it. Then I'm sure that they could conduct it and just cope with the situation. All right, so let's just talk about this a little bit. So here you got flutes below oboe, kind of in an enclosed position alongside clarinets, right? So this voice crossing is problematic, and the reason for that is because the oboe is, here you got oboe at mezzo forte espressivo with these crescendo marks. So it's going to get up to about mezzo, let's see, maybe like forte or fortissimo by the time it gets to here. All right. Okay, and then like the flutes are kind of climbing out of their softer register, but they're still nowhere near as strong as they could be. Right. So here is a situation where it would be way better for you to have this line here played by second oboe, right? And then, and some of these pitches are shared with the clarinet, right? So just sort of do a little chopping and changing so that you just end up with, all reeds. Just because the flutes absolutely, like in the position where you've got them sandwiched in between the oboe and the clarinets, if it were nothing but these instruments, just wind instruments, and maybe even the horn and the bassoon, they could all do a little balancing together and make sure that the flute comes out and stands out and everything. But the way that you've got it scored with the oboe so very, very loud, and these flutes kind of in this subordinate position between the oboe solo and the clarinets, kind of mixing in with the clarinets, it just is not going to have like I feel that like the way that you got it scored, you could just really have the clarinets do all of this, right? Just do all of the important stuff, because it's almost all of it is, all the pitches shared between here. It's almost all the same thing, right? So you could do a little bit of adjusting and just have it be clarinets and oboes. Now here you have a due, right? A2, a due for horn, and I'm really noticing that like in your horn scoring in general, it's just like two pitches, and here you've got a solo, right? And I mean the horns are really a harmonic resource as much as a melodic one. So just really only giving it like a single pitch throughout your entire piece, I feel you're missing out on something. And the same thing goes for these bassoons, right? I'm not seeing any harmony in the bassoons. All right. All right, so, all of those caveats aside, it's got some interesting scoring. I feel, something that you could have used the horns and the bassoons could have filled in a little bit more harmonically in here. And also your strings are kind of like not really doing a whole lot, right? But the big question being, like the main question on my mind as I'm doing these evaluations is, right here at the beginning, is this intro setting the mood effectively? And I think like with the goals that you've got, it's a fairly good approach. Like the tone picture that you're creating with the mock-up. Now, in terms of the exact scoring of it, I don't have time to do a big lesson on every single bar, but I would just say, more weight in the middle with possibly strings and horns, possibly even bassoons if you're not going to use them on these bottom pitches. And it's another thing why it is such a crying shame to put both groups of violins on one staff is it gives you the idea that they're sort of this monolithic block. We're occasionally doing harmonies and stuff. When the honest truth is that they are two completely independent groups of instruments, each of which are capable of producing more than one tone, like even 2 or 3 tones, right? So just like you've got these double stops here, you've got the second violins that could have easily been doing like more harmony in here and sort of, so I just think that there are more ways to achieve the effect that you're trying to get here. Now, does your melody start with elegance? You've got both groups of violins here playing together. And you've got the, as far as natural flow, you've sort of reharmonized and rethought out the way that this all works. It's not too bad. And sort of change things around, and that's fine. I encourage that. And then you did exactly the same thing as me. You did like the syncopation, using violas and horns this time, and I thought that worked pretty good. So horn in F. Playing the pitch of. So it's sounding E, and this is sounding D. You see, like there are a bunch of strange things in there. So yeah. And here are bassoons playing D and so on. All right. Yeah. So, watch out for collisions like this. Pizzicato sort of almost floating up to be part of the expression text of the staff above. Right. So like here, I see arco and I jump back. My eye jumps back and completely doesn't see the pizzicato because it's colliding with this. Just kind of going through your score and making sure everything is very, very readable. And also thinking, do you really want, ta 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 ta, or do you want to put some slurs in there? Ta 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 ta. All right, and this is just kind of a strange bowing pattern. It starts off all right. Ta 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 ta. I don't know. That just really works for me, but like, it's not unplayable. Yeah, and you might want to have more unified dynamics. Like. If you're going to have your horn in the background, just mezzo forte is good, and the same thing with the bassoons here, right? You might be worried about drowning out your violas, but I assure you, just one notch down is good enough. Okay, all right, so, and this is very, very cool. Something about the staccato tenuto has a sort of an accusing look. I feel like the articulations on your notes are judging me, especially all these up here. They're staring at me. They're giving me the evil eye, even the ones that are upside down. That's okay. Yeah, it's strange. So like sforzando on the second beat. I don't understand. Maybe you wanted them all to be sforzando. It's just like not clear. This is something that the copyist would want to work out with you. Now, are you really sure that you want to go ta 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 ta? Right? Because you haven't put any slurs. What if you were to slur each beam group? Ta ta. It's really nice that you've got this low. It's kind of a really beautiful chocolatey sound there down in the Chalumeau register. and then bassoon bo 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 be bo, and then oboe da 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 doo dee da da dum, and then the clarinet answering up an octave doo doo dee dee doo. Oh, that's good. It's just kind of a neat sound. And you've got little timpani strokes. I completely approve. I think that'll be really fun. I think that if this is going to be mezzo piano answering call and response, then this should be mezzo piano, and then this should be mezzo forte to match the winds change, up a notch. All right, now, now, I am not sure whether you use this articulation just kind of because it sounded good on your mock-up, or whether you used it because just kind of you're interested in that sort of tenuto staccato sound, maybe not exactly sure what it sounds like, and want to hear it from me, or maybe you are a joker out there, Patrick, and you want me to say unga a bunch of times. All right? Well, I am committed to saying unga as many times as it will get people to understand that is it's like sticky. All right, so it's, if you take a piece of Scotch tape, and like put it upside down on a table, and hold it down with two fingers, like a finger on either end of your left hand if you're right-handed, and take your right hand finger and just like tap it, sort of like touch the tape and pull your finger off, touch the tape and pull your finger off, right? So that is the essence of tenuto staccato. All right, so tenuto staccato it's got the staccato, the and it's got the tenuto, right? So you put them together and it's So at this speed, it's going to sound very, very sort of prissy, would that be, or tiptoeing, or it's going to be it's almost going too fast, it's just like, it just kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It would be better for you to have this as staccatos, now see, this would be better for tenuto staccato, right? But this, like this the speed at which this is going, right? It's just a little insane. Now, right in here, we've got some balance problems built right into this, right? So, if you've watched some of my previous evaluations up to now, the other 8 that I've done over the past couple days and released over the past couple of days, then you were probably already thinking about this and saying, oh no, Thomas is going to talk about how the flute's going too low. And yes, I am. Okay, so starts off the flute pretty good position. By the time you get around C and B, the flute starts to sort of lose its potency. This would be a good point for the flute to jump up to here, right? And then here, as the oboe descends, once it starts getting down here to E, and then D down to C, and then coming back, here's a place where the oboe gets very, very powerful, very sonorous, almost quacky, with perhaps with a community, or student player. So, and especially if you are kind of giving it a kind of a quacky sort of articulation already, right? So it's really going to sort of quack, 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 right? So that, those are more problems. So if this were just a nice flowing legato, ya da 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 da, then much easier on the oboist, on the second oboist going down to this C, but by no means impossible. It's just kind of sort of mincing, if you know what I mean. It's just, just kind of has this weird little thing to it. So I would just say jump the flute up to this G or A even right here, and then just let the thirds descend in the oboe, and there'd be absolutely no change or difference or anything. Right. And as far as this, B, A, G, it's just completely lost. You've got those notes in your second oboe. There's absolutely no benefit gained to you by pushing the second flute so low. Like if you're in a flute, like a wind octet or something like that. It would be a little different. If it's just all wind players and they're all playing together and they're balancing things, but in an orchestral situation, especially on a big stage, everything changes. All the rules change. So yeah, I just really think that you are robbing yourself, Patrick, by putting both groups of violins on one staff. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Look at the templates that I provide, right? Just try to follow that as much as possible. Populate, right? See here, this is a viola line, but just think of how much richer, how about, what if the first violin were playing this line starting from the B and the second violin were playing this line starting from the G, right? Just how much richer that would be. Yeah, and this is kind of fun. Bum, bum, bum. Nice. But, the correct thing would be bum, 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 dun, 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 right? Because here's the D in the bass, right? By putting the D here, it is sort of incomplete. It's a kind of an incomplete phrase. And this is cool, too. Dun, dum. Then you have this fun little solo here in the in your horns or horn. Yeah, and then you really want these to be individually articulated, ta 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 ta, or do you want this to be slurred, da? Yeah, and this is kind of cool. Yeah, get rid of the buzz roll. Just put in a standard triple beam tremolo, okay? And watch out for collisions like this. Yeah, and some nice big chords and so on. Here you have accented tenuto. All right. Okay, so since let's just talk about accented tenuto because I haven't really addressed it. Okay, so a tenuto mark is like the line is just really telling you everything about how the articulation works. Just like a little dot for staccato is like boink, right? Just that tiny little dot. Okay, so tenuto is kind of like the opposite, right? It is a note that starts and finishes, and it has the same quality of tone throughout its entire duration, right? So it's almost like a foghorn. It just goes dun, right? It doesn't have this beautiful shape, dun, right? Which is like the normal wind or string note has an attack. And then it has this beautiful graduated sustain and a beautiful release. Just tails off beautifully. But not with a tenuto. The tenuto is just on and off. Now, when you have an accented tenuto, that means to hit the tenuto harder, right? Sometimes, some people interpret that as like a bite at the beginning of the tenuto. But otherwise, the rest of the tenuto is just kind of this thing. Some people interpret it as more pressure on the tenuto, right? Just fully all the way through. So yeah, but and here you sort of have added sforzando on top of that, which is is just meaning using force, right? So it essentially another accent. So you're putting so much weight on this, you might as well just mark, just keep the accents on there. Maybe lose the tenuto and just mark fortissimo or something. Fortissimo accent or fortissimo tenuto. Yeah, so just a bit jumbly here in the dynamics, right? You just sort of commit to something. Everybody should be forte, and you should balance the way that the chord works depending on where the pitches are, and then you get a beautiful sound, right? Rather than sort of mixing everything, right? Like this guy's forte, that guy's mezzo forte, and so on and so forth. Try to have everybody be forte, except maybe bring the horn down a little bit if you're worried about it screaming a bit, or maybe bring the harp up if you were using harp. So anyways, I mean, yeah, but it's just once again, the concept of the score of what you're doing here is very cool. It's not horribly disorganized and messed up and and just a jumble and you didn't put any effort into it really. It's not that kind of entry. And I almost never get an entry like that. Yeah, you really had you had a really good concept of what you wanted to get. So I hope that some of the things that I talked about have given you a better idea of how to score certain things, right? But I mean, the biggest thing you need to work on is needing the second violins, like understanding their role and, you know, giving them their own staff and so on. And, you know, I apologize if you had a situation where like you're not that familiar with your application yet, or you have an application that's really limited, it only gives you one staff or something like that, or maybe you're limited to only having like 10 staves or something like that. So in that case, I apologize. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, score read. You know, go back to the basic, read some Mozart's symphonies and some, you know, like maybe the last 4 symphonies that he wrote. They're just like perfect. The last few symphonies of Haydn and like the first 3 symphonies of Beethoven, right? And that'll really kind of give you everything you need to just sort of think a little bit more about this. And you know, if you really want to make, you know, have more control over this particular idiom, this style, this period. And you know, of course, like you might be much more interested in like romantic or impressionistic scoring or really modern scoring. You know, for all I know, you're a big follower of Bartók and Schoenberg, right? And this piece was sort of a step down for you a little bit in terms of like using more advanced harmony. So, I mean, however it works, I'm really, really glad that you put the time into this particular entry, and I really liked it a lot. I thought it had a lot of energy, and it had some really cool colors in it, and I thought the mock-up worked really nicely. And, you know, I mean, just some standard things, slurs on some of these groups, these faster things. Don't push tenuto staccato too fast and so on. Just some basic things like that. And, you know, I mean, but the best thing of all is like just us having this conversation, right? You sending me the score and me saying a few words about it, and hopefully, you know, you and some of the other supporters and website participants and so on will comment on each other's scores. You know, that's like the best thing, you know, getting the conversations going in the comments under these videos. It's just priceless. I mean, I've seen some people like make really great acquaintances, like they're friends today. They hung out. You know, I'll be on Facebook and I'll see a picture of both of them at the pub or something like that, or having dinner together, or, you know, you never know. Like, I'm not saying that this is a place to socialize, but I'm just saying like people connect in all kinds of different ways with these orchestration challenges. But the best thing of all is just being able to like give somebody your feedback, and, you know, even if it's just to say, hey, I really like this, or I really like that one bar. You know, you don't have to be an expert on orchestration like me, which, you know, having said that, the amount of things that I don't know about orchestration that I understand that I don't know because of how much I do know about orchestration is huge. Right? I don't think there is any one orchestrator who can know everything. But there are some people who I sort of think about and I think, oh man, geez, well, you know, maybe they do know everything about orchestration. And some of them are in the Orchestration Online group on Facebook, or, you know, commenting here on YouTube. So what a delight it is to have a lot of those people in the community, and some of them helping out on Patreon. And thanks to you all, you know, and you, Patrick, for putting all the work into this and being a part of that and everything. So, yeah, you guys, this is really awesome, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys about this. It just wouldn't happen without all my supporters. So thanks so much. So that is it for me today, and I had a really good day. I looked over my first group of website evaluations and my first 3 minimum evaluations, so I'm going to do a whole bunch more tomorrow and just keep doing this until everything gets done. So I'm glad you're here at the beginning of it, and stand by because I've got dozens more videos to come. So I hope you won't get tired of any of them soon, because they are all so interesting. Just, you know, like this one and the last one and the last one. Yeah, they're just so fascinating, so different. The great personalities of each participant. Just wonderful to look at. See you guys soon.